Hello all and welcome to our presentation of soil borehole thermal grout for enhanced geothermal energy applications. My name is Benjamin Williams and I am joined by Alyssa Phillips. This research we participated in aimed to study the effect of borehole grouts in the thermal performance of the borehole heat exchangers, namely phase change materials or PCMs, which store energy and release it during a phase change. The central idea of the research was that a ground heat exchanger enabled effective heat transfer from the surrounding soil to the circulating fluid. The goal of this research is to further the understanding of GHEs so that engineers can better combat the environmental costs of heating and cooling in an effort to reduce CO2 emissions in building systems. The practicality of this research can be applied to home heating and cooling and road surface de-icing. As seen in the bottom left-hand corner of the poster, in homes, the GHEs use the system to provide warm and cool air via HVAC. It uses a process that circulates a fluid underground to bring back relatively warmer or cooler fluid through coils, which are then blown over by fans, ultimately heating or cooling the indoor environment in an energy-efficient manner. In roads, bridges in particular, the system can be used to effectively de-ice the surface. The key aspects of this research's experimental setup include the lab experiments and the numerical analysis conducted based off of the results gained during labs testing. The experiment was comprised of a fabricated vertical soil column element setup featuring an HDPE pipe at its center. The soil was backfilled with grout close to the HDPE pipe to simulate real-world conditions. The numerical analysis used a system design in COMSOL multiphysics to simulate the radial heat transfer due to the movement of water in the borehole pipes. The energy balance, mass balance, and other constitutive equations were solved with appropriate soil moisture air combinations to simulate close to the experimental setup. The experiments, covered with a more detailed view, measured two crucial factors: the thermal properties of the borehole grout and the performance of the borehole grout. The borehole grout samples, composed of 85% bentonite and 15% graphite, were compacted in a cylindrical PVC vessel at different moisture contents to measure the thermal properties of the borehole grouts. A Tempos KS2 sensor was then used to measure the thermal conductivity and thermal capacity of the borehole grout sample. The heating cell, as seen on the right, was designed to measure the moisture content and temperature at different radial distances from the heating pipe. Having a measured temperature at a steady state allowed us to determine the effectiveness of the borehole grout sample. Now I'm going to pass off to Alyssa for the experimental test plan.
Thank you, Ben. So our experiment was done in two steps: measurement of the thermal properties of the borehole grout sample and measuring the effect of the borehole grout samples and thermal properties. For the first step, we conducted a standard Proctor test on a mix of 85% bentonite and 15% graphite to find the optimum moisture content, which gave us the highest thermal conductivity. The second step consisted of testing and measuring the effects of the borehole grout, such as heat flux, temperature, and moisture movement. We compacted borehole grout with 36% moisture content and soil with 9% moisture content in 6 layers around a heat source. We placed sensors in the third layer along the radius and ran the heat test. So for the result of the experiment, starting with the graph on the bottom left, using the data collected from the first step of the experiment, we graphed thermal conductivity over water content for the grout sample to find the optimum moisture content to be about 36% with a high of 1.5 watts per meter Kelvin and a dry density of 1 gram per centimeter cubed. We use these results to perform the second step of the experiment. Using the optimum moisture content for the grout sample found previously, we conducted the second experiment. The diagram on the top left displays the results of the temperature distribution in degrees Celsius with changes in grout. Figure A shows the temperature distribution with no grout, which resulted in a steep temperature drop-off as it leaves the heat source. Figure B and C show lower density grout and grout at maximum dry density, respectively. There is no notable variation between these two. The graph on the top right displays the moisture movement throughout a heating test. We measured the volumetric water content in different radii from the heat source over time in hours. We can see that after about 48 hours, there's no fluctuation or a significant moisture movement. Additionally, the moisture from the inner layers transitions to the outer layers of the soil. The graph on the bottom right displays the temperature of the soil throughout the lab test. The dashed black line shows the center line of the pipe. The red line is the interior of the pipe surface, the blue is the exterior of the pipe surface, and the black dotted line is a soil grout interface. We can notice here that there's a steep drop-off in temperature as the grout meets the soil due to thermal contact resistance. This is important to take into consideration to prevent inaccuracies in the analysis. So in conclusion, the prepared grout sample we used had an optimum moisture content of 36% and highest thermal conductivity of 1.5 watts per meter Kelvin. The borehole grout significantly impacts the heat transfer to the soil near the heat source, and a comprehensive study of borehole grout is required for the effective design of geothermal heat exchangers. We have here listed our references that we use for our research, and thank you for your time.